It is time.
For the
greatest thing there is.
This is the way.
This is the warrior way.
This would. Welcome back. No, okay.
How are you going to start this?
I don't know. Welcome back to the Warrior Way podcast. We've been gone for a bit, but we're back, and we have a very, very special guest today. I'll actually let her say what her name is.
We don't know how to pronounce it.
Well, I could say how I pronounce it to my class, but...
That's true. I'm not going to have you pronounce it then.
Yeah.
So, hello, I'm Ali Terhorst. I am a...
Oh, I just asked for your name.
Oh.
What do you teach here at Washington?
I was about to get to that.
Oh, okay.
So, I teach Psych 1, Psych 2, AP Psychology, and Teacher Pathway class here at Washington High School, and I'm on my 17th year of teaching.
What's your favorite class to teach? Like content-wise?
Well, I like AP just because then I can get more in depth. But if I had to just teach AP, I'd be sad.
Yeah.
I love all the classes that I teach.
And this wasn't a question I was going to ask, but with Sigmund Freud in the background, we wonder...
Did he make it in?
Yeah, he's in the background. We wonder, who's your favorite psychologist? People have been talking and asking.
You are the only one who wants
ever
to
asks.
know.
Yeah.
Like current?
No, historical.
I mean, probably Carl Rogers.
Carl Rogers.
He's all about like empathy and acceptance and unconditional positive regard.
I'm more of I like Carl, but Carl Jung.
No, you don't.
I'm
what
a
do you
Carl
know
Jung
about
guy.
Carl Jung?
I know a lot about Carl Jung.
What?
This isn't a psychology podcast. We're not going to get into that.
He's a little bit strange.
He is?
That's interesting.
Is he really? Okay, because I don't know much about him.
I was going to say, like, maybe you know more than I do. Cause,
I've heard some of his ideologies, but I can't tell you what any of them are.
Oh.
But they did make sense, I feel like.
Freud was his, like, mentor.
That's what and then Vygotsky, and then... Yeah, the works. Hey, first question, and this might be hard, and I'll give you some time.
Oh.
Okay?
It's going to be something like, who's your favorite person in the department or something?
No. Here's the question. Describe yourself.
I am a type A, little bit perfectionist, clean freak. I like to organize. No, I know, my room is not perfect, but I like to have things organized. I don't like a messy desk. But those of you who are just listening, there was a lot of finger pointing because this guy has a messy desk. But I've learned that I'm trying to be okay with the mess. And that's where I'm at. I'm in the process of trying to be okay with the mess. And have I got it? No. But
well, that's interesting.
I'm pretty outgoing. I love hearing people's stories. I'm a storyteller myself. So you're
in for a treat today.
You're in for a treat today.
That's interesting that you say that because you say you're type A when there's a toaster on your desk. There's the date on your desk says January 1st, and what's the date today? Or it's probably January 8th or 9th. And the date today is March 6th.
Mm-hmm.
The type A stuff, I don't necessarily see.
Mm. Yeah, ask my husband.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well,
I'm not. Yeah.
We'll shade away from that.
I'm trying to be better. I'm trying to
be better.
Like,
let loose.
There's some things that, don't you think everyone's a little bit like that, where like there's some things that you are more particular about than others?
Yeah.
Like the date on my desk means nothing. I got a watch that tells me the date.
Yeah, but it's for aesthetic. That's why we put it there. I
got it as a
just
Secret
looked
Santa.
over there. I'm just like, is she?
I got it as a Secret Santa gift, and I'm like, who has the time to switch a date every day? I don't.
Well, Dustin switches the Jeopardy date on his every single day, so.
Yeah, but there's a reward behind it. The reward is like talking with others, and they get excited about the trivia.
Interesting. So you think we should be in a reward-based system?
We are already in a
we are.
reward-based system.
Okay.
Grades,
Candy.
paychecks.
Throwing out candy to students to answer questions.
Right.
Yeah, that's what it is. So you described yourself. Do you just want to tell everyone how we met?
Well.
Do you remember how we met?
Yeah, you.
Like it was yesterday.
What do you do with this?
Please report to student
Just
services.
take it out.
Ali Davis.
Just
Please
No, it's kind of-
report to
because it's
student
real.
services.
It's kind of the appeal. So like
Yeah, it's authentic.
it's like we're in the school.
Okay. Well, Will was a student teacher for Mr. Riley, and do you mean the very first time we met?
Mm-hmm.
The very first time we met, I was eating a big old brownie. Someone brought snacks, and I was eating it, and I thought, I'm going to see what kind of sense of humor this guy has. So I just took a big bite and made sure it wasn't even a little brownie on my teeth. It was like a ton of brownie on my teeth. And I looked at Miss Newsma, and I said, what do you think he'll say? Let's see if he... And I said, hi. Nice to meet you. I'm Mrs. Terhorst. And I had just brownie all over my teeth. And you just went along with it.
Yeah.
Like, hi, nice to meet you. I'm Will Hanneman, blah, 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 blah. And I looked at her and I said, he doesn't pass. He doesn't have a sense of humor.
And that's what people...
boy, was I wrong.
And that's what we're talking about. Teaching is such a cutthroat business. And I knew if Ali Terhorst was coming up to me, and
You had no idea.
I did
You
not
just
want to
was
be rattled.
trying to be
So
polite.
I just didn't let anything bug me that day. And actually, I applaud myself for still standing my ground.
I think it was your background in politics. Like, you still have to maintain that, like...
No, you know what that is probably? I'm not disagreeable.
Politically correct.
I'm not disagreeable enough to like say like
Oh.
make someone
Yeah, feel bad.
yeah. But that also I knew it was a joke.
You did? Why didn't you go along with it then?
Well,
It was a
I
funny
did go along with it.
That's true.
I did go along
That's
with
true.
it.
That's
That's the whole thing. So and that's how I met Ali or Mrs. Terhorst.
Or are we gonna call each
I don't
other
know.
that?
We
Yes, okay.
now she's since I've gotten to this building, we've been neighbors
A year
the
now.
majority of my time in this building, and she's really helped me out with some hijinks, especially when I was a student teacher. You know what I'm talking about?
Mhm.
Yeah.
You pulled down one of those old maps
Yeah.
to use in a geography class, and then you couldn't get it back up, right?
Yeah, thinking I could use it, and
And then, what did I do?
You-
You knocked it down.
No. So we came. I'm a student teacher, and I'm freaking out. I'm so nervous that my
That
job's
the-
on the line.
That the 100-year-old map is just gonna.
But if I
because
break it, I'm
comes
gonna
down-
have to buy it, and I just don't. I mean, I was nervous, and Mr. Riley wasn't there that day, so
I came
the
in
only
home.
person I really know besides Nusma was Terhorst, and so I go over to her room. I said, "Hey, can you help me?" And then she comes in there, and the map's down, and she just she pulls it once, and the map shoots up and falls off and almost hits me.
Oh.
I almost filed for workers' comp. It was that bad.
No, you
And-
were like, oh no, am I gonna get in trouble? You're still like that.
I still am like that.
Yeah, I can't count how many. I've lost count on how many times you've been like, I'm gonna be fired.
Well,
I'm gonna
see,
be
once
fired.
you have loved me as a student, I was so worried about getting in trouble, I just do whatever you would want me to do. You know, I mean,
Right.
that's what we want. Kids just so afraid of us, right? Yeah. So I mean, we've gotten to know each other pretty well over the past. I guess it's 3 years, but take out a couple I don't know. Yeah. Yeah. And I've kind of got your, I mean, I remember the first day after I actually taught for the first day. And we, like, just getting your insight on education and stuff like that and how to reach students, I find really helpful all the time. And one thing I've always, I kind of wonder, especially with guests who come on the show, is, I mean, you can teach anywhere, but what specifically does Washington mean to you?
You know, I don't know if I knew the answer coming here. You know, I think it was availability, and someone highly recommended. I student taught under a teacher who now teaches at Brandon named Carolyn Ebright, and she was fantastic, and everyone loved her, and I had a really good student teaching experience. And then she took a job in Brandon because that's where her family lived, and that's where her kids went to school, so she wanted the same schedule as them. And so my first job was here, and I don't think I could teach anywhere else. I mean, I think I could, because my personality type is just to make the best of wherever I'm at, but I have loved being a Washington Warrior.
Yeah.
I love it here. I bleed orange and black, and
You almost didn't know the color.
what is the other color? I bleed it though. I know I do. But I love the diversity. I love the diversity, and can't wait for my kids to have a piece of that, because I grew up in a really small town and we just didn't have that. And I love the culture, and not just the culture as in like diversity, but the culture of that the family type of feel, and that's among colleagues, that's among students, I just choose to see a lot of the positives. And yeah, are there downfalls? Of course, we're all human, and
That's every job.
Yeah,
though.
there's every job, and every place you go, you're gonna find that. But I love our administration. I think we have a fantastic group of leaders that make you want to be here and follow them. And again, are they human? Yes. And do they make mistakes? Yes. But all around, there's just a lot of areas that I love about Washington.
Oh, that's the whole man in the arena. It's not the critic who counts, it's the doer of deeds. And but I mean, part of that is like, I really feel like when I got here, I could notice a sense of staff and administration who care enough to go do stuff. Because like, we can complain about our situations all we want, but actually going out there and actually wanting to go do something and try to fix something where, like, a problem we have, I think that's part of what makes Washington.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, the environment when you leave, I think, is really special.
Yeah. The once a warrior, always a warrior.
Like,
that type of thing?
but like it
Or
ring.
what?
It's actually, it rings true.
Yeah.
Like, how many times do we talk about a
Former student.
former student that you had that I know, and you still know him, and like,
Yeah.
we usually talk about my dental hygienist.
Can't remember her name.
No, I know her name. I was
Oh.
wondering if you knew her name. Haley.
O'Derlin?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just, that's the stuff. Like, there's always those connections that I feel like when someone leaves, you don't, like, the staff here just cares a little bit about what's going on.
Which is why I'm saying it's like a family.
Yeah. And,
Right?
Yes.
Like, even wherever you go, this is always home, and we're always excited to see each other and run into each other. And I honestly can't tell you a student that I've ran into that I wasn't excited to see. I feel like I'm surrounded by greatness.
Mr. Reiner, please report to the Little Theater. Mr. Reiner, please report to the Little Theater.
I just feel
what do you
like
mean?
I am better because of the staff that I'm around and the students. I mean, Yeah, are there some knuckleheads? Sure, but I have a lot of students who challenge me in good ways, and staff that are like incredible at their jobs. Like, I just think that it's a
No.
well-staffed
Well, part
place.
of the problem I always see myself running into is I feel a lot of imposter syndrome with this department, especially, like, because I just see like Dustin Whitney, just him being a collaboration lead. It's like this guy gets it.
Yeah.
He gets it. Like,
Good.
and he's good. He's like he understands everything that it takes to be a great teacher.
Yeah.
And I mean, Milken Award winner, and not even like jokingly either. Like those things, like I could go on and on about this whole department,
That's
and
what
we're
I'm
very
saying.
young. And
I am just surrounded by really good teachers who I have multiple times come to people and said, I'm struggling with this or this. I legitimately want your feedback. What do you, and they always have really good stuff to say. Like,
yeah,
or I hear about what they're doing in their classrooms and I'm just like, that's so good.
and that's
So good.
That's also like,
And it's multiple people. Like, it's not just.
oh, I know that's the thing. Like, it's you can get help from anyone, and if you want the help, it's always there. That's like,
Yeah.
that's what I love, and you always can get something new and something fresh, and
Yeah.
I really like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, we're just gassing up our department. They don't listen to this, so they won't hear
They'll
this.
be like, go to minute 18.
What'd you eat for lunch today?
Quesadilla.
You ate a quesadilla?
I know you thought I was going to do I do avocado toast.
I thought it was
On
going to be
sourdough
avocado
bread.
toast. Well, why a
But-
quesadilla? What kind? Chicken? Cheese?
Yeah, I got those like Costco quesadillas. They're so good. Like
They're
pre-made.
pre-made?
But they're in the like, they make them there. Where the mac and cheese is.
Do you have to
and
heat it
the-
up?
What?
Do you have to heat it up in here?
Yeah.
And it goes
I mean,
pretty
I
well?
suppose it's kind of like cold pizza. You could not heat it up.
Oh,
but
no, that wouldn't be good.
No,
Now
yeah,
I
I
think
heated
about
it
that.
up. We do it on the Blackstone.
Oh, you got a Blackstone?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, jealous.
Tim got it for his 40th birthday.
Tim's 40.
Mm-hmm.
Huh. Wow.
Hey, stay on the track.
I know.
Stay
I
on
know.
the course.
And she's partly my therapist, and she's trying to get me through my ADHD.
I have it too. Oh
that I
man,
think
I
I
have
have.
it too.
One thing I've started to really think about is you can't get away with anything in your life. You really can't. And I like, it's the idea of karma. You know? Have you ever?
This is where we're going with this. Okay.
This
I
is
like
what I'm
this.
just. I'm asking.
Okay.
And one thing about you is that you have really good karma.
You think so?
I think that you go above and beyond for people, and it always comes back, and it helps you. Like there's some people in this world I know that there's a reason that people like them, and there's a reason that people hold them in such high regard. I feel like you're one of them, and I wonder, I wonder what that is. And maybe a better question is, what's the best advice you've ever received?
Hanneman, you got to prep me on this.
No, that's what.
Best advice I've ever received.
Dead air.
I know. I'm sorry.
No, I'm kidding.
I'm sorry.
No, take as long as you want.
Because then you think about it, but then later I could be like, oh man, that wasn't it. It was this. I don't know. The first thing that comes to mind. Oh, there's so much. I've gotten a lot of good advice in my life. Well, this is what comes to mind first. When I was in high school, I was a senior in high school and I was late for school.
Where are you from?
Eagle Grove, Iowa, small town of like 3,500, just north of Des Moines. And I was late for school, and my dad was shoveling, and I was pulling out of the drive, and he was parked kind of behind me, and he let me park in the garage, and he parked outside. He was parked kind of behind me, and I was trying to get out, and I ran the my front bumper into the garage when I turned it too sharp right away in a hurry, and I ran into the garage. My bumper into the garage. My dad watched the whole thing happen, and I was like at the wheel, and I like looked at him, and I'm like, sorry, and he was like, just go. Just
Was
go.
he upset?
He was mad. He got like crunched lips. Just go. And I got to school and I was crying. I thought, oh, how are we going to afford this? And what's, like, I feel so bad. And I'm type A, so, like, I didn't do it right. And I wasn't. So then at lunchtime, I went out to my car and it was snowing because my dad was shoveling. And on my windshield in a Ziploc bag, there was this note inside a Ziploc bag. And so I, like, got in and it was my dad's handwriting. He said, Allie, I was just sitting at work thinking how blessed we are to have each other and to have our health. Don't worry about the car. It's nothing that can't be fixed. Love you, Dad. And so that's like what's important in life. I have to like keep reminding myself that. So that's I don't know, advice.
Interesting, because that's what my next podcast is about.
What?
That exact, like, what is important in life?
Yeah, what's
and how
important?
how do you decide what the hierarchy of your life is? You know?
Yeah.
And I think
I
that's...
mean, for me, a lot of that comes down to like when you go through a lot,
Yeah.
then you realize what's actually important is not really the things that you ever thought were important. Yeah.
Yeah. And, I mean, I think about how everybody's going through something, you know?
Totally.
And you had experience that put you through a lot. And I just kind of wanted you to kind of talk about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you want me to talk about Quinn?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm a pretty open book about our story. So in 2012, March of 2012, we had our first child. Her name is Quinn. And healthy baby story, pretty normal. And then in July of that same year, so 5 months later, we were putting her to bed one night, and it was actually the night before her baptism. So my mom was there, and my dad was there, and my sister was there. And she had been kind of fussy, and we were like all kind of walking around with her, trying to get her to stop crying. And it was like 9:30 at night or something, and she just like screamed real loud and then stopped breathing. So my sister called 911, and we started doing CPR. My husband started doing CPR, and the ambulance came, and they took me in the front of the ambulance, and they actually had us out of the house, and then they took us in the ambulance, and my family followed behind us, and we got to the hospital, and we had to wait outside. They wouldn't let us in the room with her. We had to wait just in the corridor there, and they came out a little while later, and I don't know how long it was, but they said, you're going to have to say goodbye to her. We're just keeping her alive with compressions right now. And we were like flabbergasted, I guess, because it was like 45 minutes between just like her crying, putting her to bed, like a normal night, I think, of a newborn, to like having to say goodbye. And there's really no warning signs of it. So that it's your first child. I think with any child that would be hard, but it's our first, and we went from like, at that stage of their life, they are 24 hours a day dependent on you, to childless. We had empty arms. So it was, obviously the hardest thing I've ever had to do in my life. And they did an autopsy, because obviously they were like, we were reeling over what it was. And The autopsy report came back normal. Like everything in her body was great. So that's why they labeled it SIDS, which stands for sudden infant death. And so they're really just, it was sudden. She was an infant and she passed away. It's pretty much the like IDK of diagnoses.
So
right?
that was all in one night?
Yeah.
I thought what'd you go out to Michigan for?
Okay, so that's
That's
another
Willow. That's
child.
Willow.
That's
Yeah.
Willow. Yeah, so then we had, that was Quinn, and that was a huge, hard thing in our life. And then we had Kale, so we have a 7-year-old. We had him in 2015, so it was 3 years later. And like we tried to get pregnant right away, and we struggled for 3 years to have him. And then in 2018 we had Willow, and so Willow was born a month early. They took me in for C-section because she wasn't moving as much, and my fluid was getting low, and so they took me in and did emergency C-section. And we didn't normally with Down syndrome you have a diagnosis at like your 20-week ultrasound, and we had no diagnosis, so we had no idea. And actually they took me in for a surprise C-section, and then they tried the epidural, and I could still move everything, and so they put me under. And then Willow was born, and the doctors told Tim, we think that she has Down syndrome, and I was still asleep.
Mm-hmm.
So he had to process it alone for like 30 minutes till I woke up. And then that same day, they told us that she had a hole in her heart, and it would require open heart surgery at 5 months old. So let's do the math. Like, that's a huge trigger for us, right?
Mm-hmm.
5 months old with Quinn. She would need open heart surgery, and there wasn't a surgeon in the state of South Dakota who would do it. So they recommended a heart surgeon in Ann Arbor, Michigan. And so at 5 months old, we flew to Ann Arbor, Michigan. And she had open heart surgery, and it was supposed to be a 7-day thing, but she got a heart infection. And so we were there, stuck in Ann Arbor for 7 weeks with my then 3-year-old, all staying in a Ronald McDonald house for 7 weeks for her open heart surgery. So yeah, it's not being an easy ride. That's for sure.
How do you, after something like that happens,
What? Which one?
you get home, the first one.
Okay.
You get home.
Quinn.
Yep,
We're talking.
with Quinn. You get home, you and Tim do.
Yep.
How do you wake up the next day? Like, how do you...
Well, you don't really sleep.
Do you ever look back on yourself, that previous person, and just like, who was that?
Yeah. Because I remember thinking like, I'll never be the same. Like, I'll never be the same person. But, like, I feel like I have really good perspective at this point. We're 11 years out. And I don't feel like any of us were meant to ever be the same. Right?
Well, that's
We're
the
like,
whole story of the Phoenix Rising.
Yeah.
Because when you die, you're reborn.
Yeah.
When you do something traumatic, when you do something hard, you're a different person.
Yeah. So I grieved that for a long time. Like, I will never be the same. But I don't know if we were meant to stay the same. Like, I don't know if that necessarily needs to. Yeah. I'm okay with it now.
Mm-hmm. How often do you think back about Quinn?
It just, well, she's part of everything, right? So, like, I don't know if there's, daily, there will be something that will make me think of her or think of that circumstance, but I don't, now it's not like it's not, I don't think of the
Yeah.
memories
Yep.
or that isn't something that I dwell on daily. But yeah, it's always a part of you. Like,
Yeah.
it's just a part of me now. I think when you carry a child in your womb for 9 months, like honestly, anatomically, they're always a part of you. Like, yeah, I'll always carry her with me, I guess. So she's part of everything.
I've never carried a child for 9 months.
Yeah,
so.
no, you won't.
Do you ever feel like that it just like, did you ever just like shake your hands at the world and
Oh, yeah.
like, why me?
Yeah.
And
I think it's really, really hard not to get bitter with stuff like that, because it just feels like that is so random, right? Like, that just feels so random, and it feels like we just got dealt a really hard thing.
but how'd you overcome that nihilism and not be a victim in the situation rather than?
Well, I'm a huge believer in choice. Like, that is a choice to believe that I'm a victim of this life. And it felt horrible to live like that. So yeah, would I have days or moments like that? Of course. Or even extended time periods. Yes. And I think that's part of grieving. Just working through that. But, you know, that quote of like, and I'm going to butcher this, but it's like, working out is hard, but so is being overweight and unhealthy. And working at a relationship is hard, but so is divorce. Divorce is hard. And setting a budget is hard, but so is being financially unstable. Like, this life is hard. And so I didn't choose what happened to me, but I can choose how I respond to it. And
I mean, that's
bitterness doesn't feel good either. Like, yeah, that was hard working my way through that. But feeling bitter is hard too.
well, then
Like, it's all hard.
that's hell. Like, actually, like, being bitter about a situation that you can't control, that's actually going into the depths of hell. Whereas if you can somehow bring yourself out of that, that's peace. That's where
Yeah.
you get, and it's not easy, but how many students do we have that we see that have something going on in their life? I mean, it's
Probably
literally
everyone.
it's every single one of them.
Yeah.
And that's just what life is. But if you can set yourself up in a certain situation to be disciplined and to be conscious about what you are doing, like, as if everything has meaning, I feel like that's kind of how to help with that kind of trauma, you know?
Yeah.
And because if you look at yourself as the victim, then you're
Well, what happens with that is, I've heard some sort of analogy of like, bitterness is like continuing to swallow a pill of poison and hoping that someone else dies, right? Like,
yeah.
I'm the one that's suffering from it, and I'm like mad at everyone else around me, and it's not healthy for them or for me. So, yeah, I mean, it's a continual effort.
When did you kind of feel at peace with the Quinn situation?
I don't know if there's a like defining moment, but I do know that Tim and I both said when our son Kale was born, And that was 3 years after. So it wasn't like just his birth was it. But
Yeah.
when he was born, we felt like we were at a healthy, healing place. And then that his birth and having him was a very like healing thing for us as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, did it stink to not have him for 3 years? But I think I would have had to raise a child and process through the grief, and I think it would have taken longer.
Yeah.
I think the process would have taken longer
So a little, Quinn happened in 2012, right?
Yep.
Okay. A little background. I was in high school.
Okay.
When
What
this
year
happened.
What year? Right.
What month was it?
What? That she was born?
Yeah,
March.
March, and then it would have happened.
And then she passed away in July.
So I would have been a sophomore.
Okay.
Okay. And I distinctly remember this.
You do?
Yeah. Like
How come? Just because like people were sharing it on social media?
yeah,
or
and
what?
like all the kids that I knew that went to Washington were posting something, and then like the wristbands. I remember the wristbands, and then I feel like there was some event that was held at one of the basketball games for it. I could be wrong though.
There were a lot of things like
Yeah,
that. So
yeah.
that maybe.
But it's kind of hard at that point in like as a sophomore in high school to understand finality of stuff and
Yeah.
like that. So I genuinely didn't like. I knew about it. I just didn't really pay too much
Totally.
attention.
I can see that.
But one thing I think is so cool, and this isn't like, obviously, it's if this was an ultimatum, you'd take the lather. I looked at the cocoa butter. But one thing that I thought was awesome is how many people came out to support your family, and it's moments like that you really understand how many people care that you're here and how many people care that you're around. Just kind of talk about what Washington, how the community kind of supported you.
Yeah, well, we had like such, I would say in every area of our lives, we had just such good support systems. We had good, a strong family support system. You know, my family lives 3.5 hours away, but they were there the night that it happened. So it's not like they had to travel through the night to be with us. And we had a really strong church group that we were part of, and we had like high school, hometown friends that were still, and college friends, and then our places of work. So at the time, Tim worked at Sanford, and I worked here, and I think in every area of our life we had like outrageous support from people. And it's wild. It's like, you don't think of that when you're pouring into others' lives, right? You don't think of like what you're going to get out of it. But, I think of people who are lonely and don't need anyone and don't let people in. What happens during times like that? Like, how do you, because I couldn't stand on my own.
So
at the time, they were standing for me. They were like standing in the gap. They were standing there for me in every area of my life. And I had coworkers who I would like have moments of like, oh gosh, I'm going to lose it. And they would like catch me in the hallways while I was falling down like that. There were just people who were hugely there, and students were just very understanding. Do they say some awkward, weird, cliche things? Sometimes yes, but you give them some grace with that. And then I started writing this blog, just trying to like process through it.
What's it called?
Well, it was called Oh My Dear One. And it was called that because at Quinn's funeral, there was a dear friend of ours who sang at it, and she wrote a song. I just told her, just choose a song. Like, I can't even choose a song. Will you choose a song? And she was like, can I write a song? I was like, sure.
Simon Cowell does not like on The Voice when people write a song.
So she wrote a song, and it was called Oh My Dear One, and it was gorgeous. It was a beautiful song. And we, so that's how we named the blog. And I just journaled because that's how I was processing through it. And everyone would ask, like, how are you doing? How are you doing? How are you doing? And I kind of was just like, maybe I just write it on a little blog, like a Google site. And then, at that time, I wasn't into like, I'm going to write a blog and everyone's going to read it. I was just more like, then I don't have to talk about it as much with people. Like, they can just see where I'm at, and they don't have to ask, and they can. And so I started writing it, and it was getting like
some traction.
Thousands. I mean, this is the one nice thing about social media is people were like sharing it, and it gained, so people were reading it, and at the time, it was a big deal. Like, not even like these days. It was the days where it was a little bit more just like only on Facebook could you share something like that. I suppose Twitter too, but I never have done Twitter. So, then when it came to be her birthday, I was really overwhelmed by it. Like,
That's what I remember. I remember the birthday.
Yeah.
I remember the birthday.
So it's this time of year, right?
Yeah.
It's March 12th is her birthday, and it was just, I was dreading it. When I say overwhelmed, like, I was dreading it. I didn't want to have her birthday. It felt so unfair. I probably wasn't in a great time of my life. And honestly, it was just a kind of I know it doesn't sound selfish, but it was like, how am I going to get through this day? Because I don't think I can make it. Like, I'm going to physically die. I don't think I can make it through this. And I said to Tim one day, I was like, what if we just took what we would spend on her for her first birthday, and we like did random acts of kindness that day, just you and I. And so then we wouldn't be like wallowing in our own pain, but it would give us like something to do and something to kind of plan and look for. And Tim was like, sure, I like that idea. And I am a big like, so then a lot of people would ask us like, what can we do to help? What can we do to help? And there's nothing you can do to help with stuff like this. Like, there's nothing you can possibly do to help. So then I was like, what if we told others that they could do random acts of kindness, and we'll just put it on the blog? Tim's like, sure, if you want to. And then I, on a whim, emailed Jason Luth, who was doing the newspaper at the time, and I was like, can I invite, and Mr. Nold, and I was like, can I invite the school to do it too, random acts of kindness with me? And they were like, absolutely. So I wrote a little write-up, like, it's going to be her birthday. Do you want to do random acts of kindness with me? And we'll call it Celebrate Quincidence. And like, people ran with it. Like, you know, when we go to state and they make like hanging posters, and a guy that I worked with named Brandon Hunt, him and his class came in after school and decorated my room. They put like balloons and put Celebrate Quincidence, and I had former students who were teachers at elementary schools, and their elementary students wrote my students encouragement letters like, you can make it through this day. I'm so proud of you. I can't wait to be like you. Like, they wrote my students, so they got to open. So my students were opening letters from elementary students that were just so precious. And listen, I can see where this happened, but it did kind of turn into like, let's see how many acts of kindness we can do to Miss T. So there was like a gazillion flowers and like stuffed animals and food. I got a lot of food. But then there were a lot of people blessing others too, so it kind of turned into a big thing. And that day then on the blog, people were like writing in, and they were writing from like England and Germany and Papua New Guinea. They were like writing me messages that they're doing random acts of kindness. And I was just like shocked by the whole thing. I just did not think that's what was going to happen. And we've done it every year since, but it's never been quite like that. That was just because I didn't have any. I thought maybe a few people would do it with us. And it was wild.
Yeah. That's.
Yeah. So.
I don't know. I remember it took off. Because that's what I must have remembered. The first birthday, especially because state tournaments around that time for basketball.
Yeah, so then the people going to state basketball were like decorating like Washington kids decorated other opponents like locker rooms and stuff for them.
Oh, really?
And brought for opponents to like celebrate random acts of kindness. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it was a big deal.
Yeah. Well, I know you got to go here to go pick up Kale, so I don't want to take too much. But I guess I kind of want you to tell people, invite them, kind of to what you want to see from Quincidence Day this year.
Yeah, so it's Sunday, so that's a little bit hard. It's hard in a way that it's not on a weekday where I can see our kids and we can tell them. But I am just always so overwhelmed when someone does. I think when you have a child, you want them to be known, and you want their peers to know them, and you want their teachers to know them, and when you have a 5-month-old, not very many people knew who she was, right? They knew that I had a daughter. They didn't know who she was, and it people have a hard time asking me about her, and I am I want to talk about her, and so doing these random acts of kindness is just a way that can still keep Quinn known. Like she's still being known, and her short life is still affecting others, so I mean, there's big and small ways of doing these types of things, right? I mean,
maybe sending Mr. Hanneman a crumble cookie. I don't know.
People do like the pay for the person's drink behind them, but I'm even saying tip your barista that's working their tail off for all of these free ones, right? Give them that, or write a note to someone. We're terrible at telling people, even if it was just everyone expressing appreciation for someone, like a heartfelt, authentic, genuine appreciation. That would be a big deal, right? Or paying off lunch accounts at a local school, or those types of things are.
Well, I mean, it's the golden rule. What would you want someone to do? And especially, I mean, what if you're having a good day? Someone's probably having a bad day.
Yeah.
There's actually there's a 100% chance that somebody's having a bad day.
Yeah.
So how would you want someone to? And it's so simple. The amount of times you just show someone encouragement with anything.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it's crazy. Their whole day just changes. And that's I talk to, in government, I have this saying, fix yourself, fix the world. So if you want to actually fix like the system and fix the world we have, you first have to have yourself fixed.
Yeah.
Meaning you have to have yourself in check. And I mean, it's the whole what you said earlier about would you rather be spend money on something or would you rather be financially unstable? Like if you have your life in check, you can change the world. And it starts with just being kind. Like if you can just say thank you, if you can say please, if a waitress is not doing well while she's waiting your table, you can maybe let it go. Like it's not easy for anyone.
Well, but some of these things I'm like, I'm hoping you're doing every day.
Yeah, no, yes, but like I'm just thinking, how about think small first? Because I think money is like money is money, and it's if you're willing to give. But if you can actually make someone feel better, and I don't think money's always the best way to go about that. I think
I think the heartfelt the calling someone who would like to hear your voice.
Buying a toaster for a department, buying a Keurig.
You're check. You've done that one.
Maybe buying someone a ping pong paddle. I don't know.
What was that?
I just hope someone would, because
right.
Well, I feel like I could talk for hours, but we gotta wrap this up. Is there any last thing you'd like to say?
No.
Who's your favorite student of all time? Oh.
I think that being a teacher there's a lot of like, obviously lessons that go beyond the book. And I hope that my students would always know that life is hard and it never turns out the way you think it will. It's never going to turn out exactly how you can't plan this life. But you can choose how you respond to this life, and how beautiful you make it is up to you.
Last question. What's your why?
Ooh.
Wow.
I mean, I would say to avoid being cliche, spending eternity with Quinn and Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
So how I live this life is because of, I don't know, my relationship with Christ.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Great. Love it. We're going to end there. Thank you for coming on the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me.